Hi everyone, it's Natalie here, and this is a VR to Jackie from Strength from Tarot. And in her video, Jackie shared her comfort deck. She shared the deck that she turns to when she's experiencing depression as a result of bipolar 2. And I don't know what that experience would even be like. So I just find it incredibly courageous that she shared that, and also just imagining what that experience of going between the two extremes of hypomania and depression would be like. It's rough. The closest experience I can come to and to which I tend to respond by turning to a comfort deck, among other things, would be moments of depression where it becomes really difficult as a Buddhist to engage in the path and to engage in the view. So you have the path and the view is a big part of the path, right? So the path leading out of suffering includes the view, right? The right view of the world and of things. And that view, I'm doing the coffee here. That view is a lot different and more radical in many respects, than a lot of the ways in which we've been conditioned, right? Especially as Westerners. So the problem I encounter is that I can tend towards nihilism, right? What does any of it matter? Why bother? Why even bother? Why bother being good? Why bother being a decent person? Why bother monitoring my own mind? Why do I even bother? You can imagine, right? I have a very strong why bother demon that inhabits my my psyche. And when it strikes, it's ugly and it's mean, and I can get stuck there. And so rather than trying to find my way out of that abyss, again, this is going to seem kind of radical, but I tend to go a little bit more deeply into it. And the deck that brings me comfort in there and reminds me of my own kind of primordial okayness, right, or decency, necessity, is probably not going to shock very many of you, but it is the Marielle. And this is a copy of the Marielle, that I trimmed, and it's a first edition, and I love it because it's like taking that dive into the abyss, right? In a moment, as we see in the fives a lot in here, of realizing that I didn't take that deep dive into the abyss to begin with because everything was okay anyway. And that what I found while I was in there was far more valuable than what I gained from not diving in the first place, or being afraid to dive in all the way, because the other part of it as a Buddhist is, not to dive into the darkness, right? Or not to dive into the abyss of things, the deepness, the nothingness, right? The idea that there's nothing, right? That there's this big nothingness, which we find terrifying generally, psychologically. We have a lot of wonderful defense mechanisms that keep us safe from diving too deeply or getting lost. But you can dive so deeply into that abyss that everything changes, right? And suddenly there is purpose. Suddenly there is a renewed sense of knowing why you took that journey to begin with. The simplicity of it, the fruits that are part of it, the strength, you know, that comes from the adversity of having gone through it, the new birth that arises out of that abyss is also a part of it. Embracing your own darkness, embracing your own badness, your own unfitness, you know, your own I don't know, difficult aspects is a part of that. The opposite, right, of this abyss, of this nothingness, etc., tends to be eternalism, right? Everything's going to be okay, go to the light, you know, having a soul, knowing that your soul and your personality and everything about you survives death, which diehard mediums will tell you is the truth, right? Because that is their experienced truth. They have experienced that truth. I am also a medium. I have also experienced that truth. I'm also deeply questioning of that truth. Okay, and I'm speaking as someone, I've seen dead people. I've seen them physically in front of me. I've seen dead things. Or disembodied probably is a better point, a way to put it. I don't know that they were necessarily dead, but they were disembodied. They were not embodying a three-dimensional material body. I have experienced periods of time where, you know, the mediumship aspect has taken over to such a degree that finding space and quiet just to be in my own thoughts and mind without hearing, you know, the people who want to talk to me has been difficult. So again, that is scary, because it does make you question whether, it used to when I was younger, make me question whether or not I might be experiencing a psychotic episode. The truth is that I was not, and thankfully I was not. But it's scary. And finding some space and some quiet just to sit and practice can be difficult. Because in those moments, that's the last thing you want to do, because it means that you dive more deeply into the abyss. Right? So it became clear at a certain point that Buddhism would be helpful, because it's not saying, you know, go towards one or go towards the other. It's saying that both coexist, and that it's not a choice of whether they do or don't exist. It's not a choice of whether you go to one side or the other. It's simply to be as present as you can with whatever is arising, without necessarily needing to label it as one thing or another, as good or bad. You know, just simply to say, okay, this is what's here. And this is the deck that allows me to go into that space, because it holds both. It holds both. It holds both the abyss and the nothingness and everything that arises out of it, which may include that sort of eternalistic question that we tend to qualify as being light. It's light, it's dark, it's everything, and it's all included in that space. And so I find great comfort in this deck because of that. Another deck, right, if I'm experiencing that helps me get grounded, and more, I don't know what the word is that I want, like more, grounded, really grounded, and more kind of deeply connected to the world around me, is this one that I keep in this box, and I don't talk about it much anymore. But in here is my copy of the Tree Spirit Oracle cards, and this is one of the first decks that I purchased when I decided I wanted to come back to cartomancy. I just started a Tibetan path, and it felt right to come back to this, to come back to cards. come back to divination. You know, they've started to get a little discolored on the edges because of wear and tear, but this is an incredible deck. It is, it holds the energy of trees. And it's not just the cards themselves or the beautiful colors or the glyphs that connect you back to the trees themselves. It's also the guidebook, which really could be used all by itself as a form of bibliomancy, because it's just so good. And Simon Lilly, who's the creator of this deck, you know, has created this based on his own personal experience, say, of a plum tree. You know, he, or any of the other ones that are in here, there's so many. I want to say maybe that one's a cherry tree. There was a point in time where I had most of these almost memorized. I mean, they hold the essence of these trees in the most wonderful way, and it reconnects me with them in a way that's helpful because of other practices that I've also held that were similar. So this, say for example, birch. You know, when you read about the tree and you read about the guidance of that tree, it's like the world is seeing you. It's like the trees, which I have embraced as my friends, the holly trees, are seeing me and saying like, "Hey, you're not alone. You're not alone in this reality, in this existence." And I take great comfort from that, because again, if you've established relationships already with some of those trees, you know, to have that validation, that connection restored, especially in the winter when most of them are dormant. You know, the evergreens not so much, but the deciduous ones have lost leaves and they're dormant, and so they can't leave you their little messages. They're not there in the same way, but some of their essence is, and so that again connects me both to the present moment and includes that sort of eternalist viewpoint, which can also be comforting in certain aspects when I'm in that abyss of nothingness, as a way of embracing that abyss and saying, okay, this is here, and so are all of the rest of these things, and together they make up the present moment, which includes all of it, and also is beyond the ability to be labeled. So much longer than Jackie's original, but yeah, this is how I tend to experience comfort, and how I tend to reground myself after a really difficult bout of nihilistic, nihilistic depression and why botherness. So thank you again, Jackie, for creating this tag and for sharing your authentic experience. I look forward to hearing about those of others as well. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.